Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition. We're getting so excited. We heard Chazzy laughing during the intro because he is just ready to rock and roll for the Streakers Island Podcast. It is I, the self-proclaimed sports analyst, Jacob Moore. Beside me is the CEO, Mr. Milkman, Chazzy. And Mr. Still doesn't get enough sunlight, more for your money. We have an action-packed show here for you, my peeps, my homies. Word. We got the NHL Playoff Race. It's heating up. The Islanders got a little screwed over on Monday night. We're going to get into that. The Leafs are moving lines yet again. I don't think they're listening to
here we go.
We have the Habs. Are they a true playoff team? We'll discuss that. The OHL playoffs are on their way, and we have a special guest that's going to give us his perspective that we're going to break down. The CFL has no star power? That's according to a CFL general manager.
What?
And, of course, much more. But let's get into this NHL playoff race. And it's heating up. But the first one I want to talk about is the Islanders-Blue Jackets game. Though this game had huge implications, right? If the Islanders had won this, they would have actually tied with the Montreal Canadiens for second in the wild card. Now, mind you, they would have played one more game, but still, that is how tight this is getting. However, the Islanders were called on a no-goal due to a controversial either high stick or goalie interference.
What?
No one even
Which one was it?
That's a good question. We've heard reports saying it's been a high stick, reports saying it was goal interference. I tell you what, it was neither. In my opinion, with my beautiful blue eyes, we all have them on the podcast here, it wasn't a high stick and it wasn't goal interference. The Islanders, with this goal, would have taken the lead with about 8 seconds left in the game. Islanders got screwed. There is no other way to put it. They got completely screwed. They got a point, which is important. But the Blue Jackets getting 2 points is just making this East race that's this much tighter. Between Montreal to Columbus is a 2-point difference. You got Montreal 75 points. Islanders are 74. Rangers are 74. Blue Jackets was 73. So this race,
well, you got the Red Wings too with a game in hand at 70.
That is
very true. Are you rating
true.
them off? You're rating them off?
Due to their losing streak, yes. They've only won 2 of their last 10. They've lost 2 in a row yet again. And now, mind you, they're a streaky team. If they can go on a 8-2 or a 9-1 or a 8-1-1 in their next 10, then sure. Do I think they're going to? No. Because, look, Montreal's cooled off as much as they did get a surprising point against Colorado. So the East is definitely heating up. It's the Rangers beating the Canucks the other night was a huge win for the Rangers, right? That was a must win for them to stay alive. They are still alive, even though they have played 2 more games than the Canadiens. I really think this is a 4-team race for that final spot. I think you're looking Montreal, Islanders, Rangers, Blue Jackets. As much as the Blue Jackets have really struggled of late, 2-7-1 in their last 10. That's only 3 points in their last 10 games, like 3 possible points. So, like 3 games, with points available.
Come on,
so they are struggling, right? But they could get hot again. But for the Blue Jackets, getting that win against the Islanders was critical. I think if they had lost that game, I probably would have written them off.
I disagree with you, Jacob, that they fixed this to the Islanders, because if this was the last game of the season, I could see a point the Islanders being screwed. And I get for screwed for this 1 game, but it's still 11, 10 games left. They got plenty of opportunity to get that 1 extra point.
Okay, but if you miss the playoffs by 1 point, you're going to go back and look at that.
Oh, for sure you are. But I'm saying at this point, I don't think that's going to happen.
The Islanders are currently 1 point back.
I get that.
1 point back.
Yeah, with 10 games
in a game
to go.
that they should have won. And I will argue this to the moon and back that goal should have counted.
If it was the last weekend of the season, I get what you're saying, but 10 games out? No.
But this just brings my point. Why don't we have the technology that can just definitively say if it's a high stick or not?
But did they go upstairs? Did they make the call to the booth?
They did. And after video review, they stayed to the call on the ice. They said it was too close to call.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
So I don't understand is why don't we just have the technology in the sticks and in the posts that we can figure out if it's a high stick or not?
Well, what about
so they just couldn't determine if it hit his stick? Is that what you're saying? Or was it goalie interference? I thought that's two different things.
Yeah, I heard goalie interference too.
They also, then that's the thing too. I have seen reported on Sportsnet mixed results. Some people are saying it was goalie interference. Some people are saying it was a high stick. Goalie interference is another one that we need a clear cut. What is goalie interference? Everyone hated it back in the 90s when if your foot was in the crease, it was automatic goalie interference. I preferred it because at least you just knew what it was.
You knew it was black and white.
Black and white and red all over. You knew what it was. It was a newspaper. That was the call. Yeah. Unless you're Brett Hall in the Stanley Cup Finals and you magically change the rule. But we need a more definitive call for goal interference, and we need the tech to just determine if it's a high stick or not.
But what if that affected weight of the stick?
These chips weigh next to nothing.
Oh, okay.
Just put a bit of less tape on it. It'll weigh the same.
Oh, okay.
Well, if they can do it in golf, they can do it in hockey.
They do it in football.
Yeah, that's true too.
They do it in football. The chips are in the balls as much as the kickers complained, which they say. Funny enough, so they took the chip out of the kicker's ball in the CFL. Their kicking percentage just skyrocketed up again. So clearly was making a difference for kicking. I don't think it would with a stick. I don't think you'd even notice it.
Well, interesting.
I was going to say, how big is this chip?
Oh,
to affect the ball that much?
It's tiny. But for kickers, they're saying they felt it.
You know what? It's superstition. They felt it, yeah.
It's in their head, yeah. What's in your head?
They felt it in their head.
But either way, the Islanders are in some trouble with that one. I'm not calling them out yet by any means because I still think they have a chance, 100%. But it's going to be tough for them. The Canucks got a big win tonight, though, beating the Devils in a shootout. Yeah, so that certainly puts them in a better position. As we're recording right now, the Red Wings are up 3-1 of 3:27 left in the third. So if they can find a way to get that win tonight, then as much as I'm saying I don't think they have much of a shot, all of a sudden they jump right back in the mix, right? I still don't like their chances just because of the way they're playing, but anything's possible when Timothy goes to school, right?
That's
so
right.
Wow, look at St. Louis since Saturday, eh?
Yeah, the Blues did a phenomenal job destroying the Predators 4-1. And with that win, looking at the Western standings, the Blues are now holding on to the final playoff spot. Mind you, they have played one more game than Vancouver and 3 more games more than Calgary and 2 more than Utah.
Wow.
So
yeah, but 4 points out.
I'm not counting. I'm not giving it to St. Louis yet. I still think this is a tight race. And Vancouver just got Demko back. And he was impacted in the game on Monday night, right? So, I mean, it's going to be interesting for Vancouver down the stretch. Who's your starting goalie? Is it
Lankinen has been great.
Or is it Lankinen who's been playing really well?
Yeah.
Like that's
even Seahawks had a good game the other game he played.
I mean, Shelos is definitely their third string as much as I think
I get that.
Moments this year.
Yeah.
But I mean, for your starter, it's a similar question as Toronto's had all year with Woll and Stolars.
It's not even a question. It's just a media.
That's not even the same. Yeah.
No, I don't mean it's the same style, but what I mean is it's another team that doesn't have their definitive number one right now. Because as much as Thatcher Demko was the definitive number one going into the year, Lankinen has put up some very good numbers this year, right? He's got a well over 90% save percentage, an under 3 goals against average. He's doing the job, and he's kept Vancouver in it this year. 100%. So it's going to be interesting to see a team in the West that's really stepped up of late, though, is the Calgary Flames. Yeah, I remember, Chazzy, you were kind of writing Calgary off on Saturday.
I'm still writing Calgary off, but let me know your thoughts.
Where to go? They've won 3 straight, 3 of their last 4, and swept the New York trip
on the road.
getting
time they've done that.
critical 6 out of a possible 8 points on the road, getting them right back in that playoff race.
That's crazy.
I think Calgary's in a position where it's going to be tough, but it's doable.
Yeah.
You're 4 points behind St. Louis of 2 games in hand. It is very doable right now.
And a warming Canucks.
But a Canucks team without Pettersson and another guy.
I was going to miss Pettersson that much if they won tonight against New Jersey.
Yeah, but Pettersson's a big part of their team as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for them, right? And I look at Calgary's schedule. It's a tough schedule too. I mean, you look at the Kraken, that should be a doable win. But then you got Dallas, Edmonton, and Colorado to close out March before you get in April. Yeah, that's tough, right?
Very tough.
And what's tough for them is they don't play the Blues at all to close out the year. Let's say they had another game against the Blues, they'd have a better shot. They have a tough schedule coming up. They have some winnable games, but they also have some games that are going to be very hard for them to win.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm not like Chazzy giving Calgary out yet, but I'm probably sitting them around a 30% chance of making it. I'm not counting them out, but it's a tougher road. It's how I feel about Utah as well. I'm not counting Utah out just yet.
I say Utah's done.
They're on thin ice here.
They're on very thin ice, especially in Seattle. It's very warm climates out there. But
well, now they're getting spanked by Detroit here tonight, like you mentioned. So
yeah,
yes, they are.
Or last night. So,
but I mean, you have a back-to-back game against Tampa and the Lightning, and then Chicago. That's a tough way to close out the month. But if they can find a way to somehow beat Tampa, Florida, and then beat who they should beat in Chicago heading in April, they have a fighting shot too. And they're playing teams. They're playing teams they need to catch. They're playing Calgary, which is a team they need to catch. They close the final game of the year against the Blues. So I'm not counting Utah out just yet. I'm putting them probably at about a 20% chance of making the playoffs at this point. I'm not writing them off, but it's getting grimmer and grimmer every loss.
Yeah.
It's more becoming a tight race between 2 teams, doable for 4 teams.
Right.
I'd say the West is pretty much it's probably gonna end up coming down to St. Louis versus Vancouver, and I'm not counting Calgary or Utah out yet, but I think Calgary's got a slightly better chance in Utah as they got 2 more points in Utah, plus they have a couple more games in hand.
So would you say the West is a little more set than the East right now?
Yes and
it's
no.
starting to take shape a lot.
It's starting to take shape more, but we still don't know who's going to get that final wild card spot yet. Although the East is definitely tighter when we're looking, like we're talking about writing Detroit off, who's only 5 points out, right? So, and like you got the Islanders and the Rangers and the Jackets who are 1-1 and 2 points out of the playoffs, right? So it's still crazy. The East is always a tight race.
Yeah.
Montreal's got to get going a bit more again in the East, though. They have been falling a little bit flat, losing 2 overtime games in a row. Now, I get the one.
They got the point.
There's still points. I agree with you. And that Colorado comeback was impressive, but they were the hottest team coming out of the break, and they've certainly simmered down.
Well, you knew that was going to happen, though.
But I mean, giving the Islanders a critical point and beating them letting them get the 2 points and losing them in overtime hurts them quite a bit. But again, they do have some beatable opponents coming up in St. Louis and Philly. Then they play Carolina and then Florida to close out the month. So you're probably hoping to get 2 out of those 4, and you're maybe hoping to beat a team that you shouldn't and get 3. Whether you can beat Carolina or Florida, you're really hoping you can win one of those games.
I think you can beat Carolina.
You think they can beat Carolina?
Yeah.
I mean, Carolina's 9-1 in their last 10. Like
I know, but I think it's a hot streak. I think we're going to cool down.
They might.
At this stage of the game in the season, I don't know about that. That team just keeps warmer and warmer. Like
we got some upcoming games, though they're very important. And remember, if you want to play along in these games, jump into the Streakers app, pick your winners, play and earn, all for fun, no risk, all rewards. If someone says to you, no risk, all reward, you got to jump in on it.
Oh, 100%.
But Tuesday night, we got some games going on. The Leafs versus the Flyers. The Leafs have to win this one. The Flyers are a team below them in the standings. They missed a huge opportunity to jump the Panthers when the Panthers lost, and then they lost to the Preds. That was a
that was terrible
for Toronto. You got the Habs
Called
versus
the live show.
You got the Habs versus the Blues coming up as well. Same on Tuesday. I think, funny enough, that's a game both teams got to have. So I'm expecting
another
game
big one. Like we got playoff games every night.
Literally,
right?
Yeah.
And that's one that both teams really need. I could see that one going to overtime because neither one of those teams will mind giving another team a point. But I think Montreal is going to get a big win there because they need to start to build some separation in the East.
Yes.
Then we got the Flames versus the Kraken. This is a must win for Calgary.
Oh, 100%.
You have to beat a team that is below you in the standings. Would you guys agree?
100%. Yeah.
Agreed.
Then the Sens versus the Sabres. Again, must win for the Senators.
Yeah, to get that momentum back. Yes.
And the reason why I'm saying that too is if you remember a couple on the weekend, we were kind of talking about how, hey, Ottawa's a lock for the top wild card spot. Montreal is now only 4 points behind them.
Yeah.
Right? So if Montreal can get back on a bit of a tear, Ottawa is slowing down a little bit.
And that race is important too, because whoever gets the last wild card faces Washington, and no one wants to do that.
But no one wants to face right now Florida either.
Well, that's true too.
Right? But I mean, no one wants
as they're getting healthy. Marchand he's coming back soon, no?
I doubt you'll see him back until the start of the playoffs just because of cap reasons.
Oh, start of the playoffs?
But he should be back for the start of the playoffs. Ekblad will be back for game 3 of the playoffs. Yeah, Florida's going to be good in the playoffs.
And what about Tkachuk?
I think
Tkachuk is he into the playoffs?
I think he'll be in for the playoffs, yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Like start of the playoffs, or will he be, are they saying into the playoffs or start of the playoffs?
They might squash them the first game just to see how they do, but they skip behind in the series, let's say like 2-0, then they go, I put him into game 3.
No, I would be really surprised if he doesn't play in game 1. I think it'll be a Mark Stone situation where he's magically healthy.
Magic.
Oh, you're saying right at the beginning, okay.
Yes. Now, Wednesday's not quite as busy for the playoff race, but we do have the Canucks versus the Islanders on Wednesday. This is a big game for both of these teams, though, mind you. This is another one I could see very low scoring, maybe some overtime action, because both of these teams won't mind letting the other one get a point, but both of them are desperate for points.
Yeah.
And you have the Islanders that have had they've been playing nothing but tight games right now. And you got the Canucks without Höglander, that's his name, and Pettersson. Mm-hmm. You got a team that is going to need to shut it down defensively. So I really could see this game being very tightly checked. What do you guys think between that one? You taking Canucks or are you taking Islanders?
I'm taking
just with the post that just with the post that I'm going to take the Islanders. It says Palmieri rips embarrassing goaltender interference call, I guess was the call. Horvat and Waugh fume over the call. So I'm not sure that that's the last we're going to hear of that call.
It is not. So I do agree. I think
I'm going to say Islanders based off of that. They're going to be like peed.
Interesting. Very fired up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But Dan, you're taking the Canucks.
Yeah, I think I don't think the Canucks are going to make the playoffs straight up, but I don't think they have convinced themselves yet. I think they're going to keep fighting. I think they're going to keep going.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't think any team is going to give up on that playoff race until they don't have a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to move on to do some Leafs talk again here, and
this is his favorite.
This is something that
I am starting to like this.
Ooh.
And the Leafs are changing their lines yet again.
What?
Now the top 6 is staying the same with Nyes, Matthews, Marner, McMahon, JT, and Nylander. But now the 3rd and 4th lines are getting some drastic changes. You're going on the 3rd line. Lawton's moving to the wing now, and he's going to play with Domi and Robertson. Lorentz is going to play with Holmberg and Yarncroke, and you're healthy scratching David Kempf to keep Holmberg in the lineup. That's what I don't understand.
Why?
David Kemp has to be in the lineup playoff time because he's one of your better penalty killers.
Right.
And also, too, you got Lawton to be your third line center. Why are you putting him on the wing?
You think you want him at center and going into Philly?
Put Domi on the wing.
Yeah,
Domi is
100%.
not defensively responsible. Chazzy, you had Max Domi in Montreal. Would you agree with me saying that Max Domi is not defensively responsible?
He does play a little bit of a two-way game, but you're going to want him more of the opportunity in the offensive zone than anything, right?
Which is why I'd rather him be on the wing. He's had the most success in Toronto on the wing.
Yes.
So the defense isn't changing at all, which I do agree with. But Dan, how do you feel about some of these moves here? Like, do you like moving Lawton to the third?
I do like moving Lawton to the third. I think the last couple games we haven't noticed Lawton, which is a great sign. Means he's not making a huge mistake. I think playing against Philadelphia, his former team, I think he's going to have a big game. You want to give him some big minutes. So I agree with him. And you make that big trade to have a third line presence, right? And I do agree with moving McMahon to the second line. So when you move McMahon to the second, you got a big hole in the third. So I agree with putting Lawton up there. What I don't agree with is benching Kemp. Kemp is a very special player. I've been a huge David Kemp fan since he was a rookie back in Chicago. I really loved him there. Then he went off to Europe a little bit and came back. Really good guy. Really good face-off. Good fourth line. He's got some talent, too. Great penalty killer. And Holberg, we've given him amples of opportunity. Yeah, I wish he was a little bit better this year, but the point is he was not. And I think you either got to trade him in the offseason or dump him or whatever, but he's got to go because he's taking up a very good roster spot in David Kemp. I agree with playing Yonklo. I think Yonklo could be up on the third line too instead of Robertson, but it is what it is, right? And I think I would have done that. I think I would have put Yonklo on the third and Robertson on the fourth if it was me too.
Now I like Robertson on the third line.
Well, you love him.
He's creating more offensive speed, right? And him and Domi seem to have built some chemistry together. I just think Domi and Lawton should switch, move Domi to the wing, Lawton to center, and Holmberg should be a healthy scratch, and Kemp should be in. Now, I also think they should leave the lines together for a few games to try to get some chemistry. Yeah. I think the lines are about as sloppy as the way Dan's sitting. Dan, you're slouched and the lead line is slouched. It's just not the way that I see this team having success. But now my next question for you, I didn't write this on the script because I was
just nice and comfy, bro.
Surprise.
Nice and comfy on the island.
Who are you starting in net?
Oh, no brainer. Storoff.
Okay,
I've been saying it all year. Joseph Woll doesn't have it. Storoff does have it. Storoff used to play in Philly. And all this controversy, who's your playoff goalie, blah, blah, blah. There is no controversy. Woll had it and couldn't get it done. So now you got to deal with Storoff. I know he got injured. Well, guess what? He still didn't get it done. People have get it done, find a way to play hurt, right? Okay. I think Storoff is your guy. You give Woll another chance in Nashville, and what happened? I never lost.
Okay, so let's Chazzy. You seem calmer than Dan tonight. Are you starting Stolarz?
You may be set up low
or Woll.
I can't make that decision for you. No, I have no idea. But I can't make that decision, Toronto, because you guys keep going back and forth. I hear you guys say, well, you're liking Woll because of the playoff performance, and he proved himself in the A with the Marlies. But last year, was it last year you guys said? And then now Stolarz, yes, he has a what? He has a cup, right? No cup.
Yeah, he got a cup in Florida last year.
Yeah, Florida. So yeah, and I don't know, but he wasn't a starter, so. You guys are making a starter out of him to carry you deep into the playoffs that he's going to be your savior. So I don't have the answer for you on that one.
I would say against Philly, the only reason I would go back to Stolarz, but for a different reason than Dan. I'm going back to Stolarz just because I think right now, truthfully, neither goalie is wowing me at the moment. So I am just going 1-1-1-1-1 until someone steals a game. then I give them a second start. And right now, neither of them have done that. They've just been.
Who was one going into the season? Who was one out of these two at the beginning of the season?
At the start of the year, Joseph Woll was supposed to be the starter, and Stoley's was supposed to be the backup.
Oh, really? Okay.
See, I didn't agree with that back then.
Then Joseph Woll got hurt. Stolarz went on this crazy run. Then when Woll came back, he struggled a bit and then found his groove. Then Stolarz got hurt, and Woll went on this great run. Now they're both healthy and both playing so-so. One of them's going to get hot again. I'm confident that between these two guys, one of them will find a way to get going in the playoffs. Truthfully,
sure.
I'm going to call it here. For Toronto to go on a run, I think they're going to end up using both goalies.
I was going to say, are you going to use both goalies? Is that a solution?
I think you pick a definitive starter, but on a short leash.
Right.
Not a long leash like you have with Bear, because I know Bear is a respectable, smart German Shepherd. These goalies are like border collies of too much energy. You don't quite know where they're going to go, so you got a nice tight leash on them in case they see a squirrel. And that's how I feel with the way Toronto is again, right? And that's been an issue with this team, realistically, this entire core 4-5 era.
Yeah,
is the goaltending has always been. As they would say among us, the goalies are an event because they're sus. You just don't know if you're going to get the strong enough goaltending out of these guys or not. You think,
you're dumping so much money into that top five. There's no money left for a franchise goalie.
Well, and now you dumped a lot of money into defense as well, right? That defense core is not cheap.
No, it's great though.
It is, but like I said, this is the year if they don't get it done, there's going to be changes. But you know what? A team that is getting it done so far this year, on a bit of a surprise, is Montreal. Yes, I know I stated earlier they've slowed down a little bit, but you know what? Overall, this year, whether they make the playoffs or not, is a huge success. Yeah. But my question, and Chazzy, I want to start with you since you're more the Habs guy than I am. If Montreal makes the playoffs, do you think they could actually win a round? Do you think they can actually beat Washington in a best of 7?
I would hope as a fan, as a fan, passionate fan, you can only hope. But it would be, mind you, hey, we said it here on Saturday about Colorado. They thought Morpher and I had 4 heads going on. But yeah, anything's possible. And they obviously can compete in playoff hockey, and they're fast. But yeah, Washington they just keep on winning. It's insane. But it would be a big task. Never count the Habs out. So I'm going to say,
I don't think you can't count any team out of a 7-game series, right? But I would say for Montreal, I've seen some people saying they might win 1 game. I don't agree with that. I think if they make the playoffs, they're going to take a team to at least 6.
I think so too.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to. I'm sorry, Chazzy. I don't know if this team's quite there yet to take down Washington, a powerhouse like Washington in the first round. Yeah. But they're there enough. I think they're there enough to scare them a little bit.
Well, in Montreal
reminds me of the first year of, remember in Leafland, the first year Matthews was here. And funny enough, we faced Washington in the first round and we took them to 6 games, right? And there was all that optimism. That's how I think Montreal fans are feeling right now. I don't think you're going to beat Washington in a best of 7, but I think you'll win 2 games at least, maybe even 3, and push Washington a lot farther than anyone would predict. I think this Montreal team, if Montembeault can get hot, and they can capitalize on their power plays, their defensive structure from the beginning of the year to now is night and day, right?
And then they got 4 solid lines too. So
they do. And Patrick Laine, I really think, was the missing piece offensively. So if you get decent goaltending and you find a way to slow down Ovechkin, which I mean the guy is getting up there. So yeah, I'm seeing some people say, "Oh, Montreal will get swept, or maybe they'll win 1 game." No, I think they'll be competitive. Do I think they'll win the round? I don't know, but I think they'll be competitive. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's pretty funny because before we started recording the Streaker Islands podcast, Mr. Professionist Jacob made us do a couple practice ones, and one of the questions was Montreal a contender? I started laughing hysterically. There was an amazing blooper reel. I don't know if we have it, but it was incredible. And this was back in maybe December. We thought there's no way Montreal's going to be making the playoffs. And now, a couple of months later, we're talking about possibly taking down Washington. So huge congrats on Montreal. I think, crazy enough, I think Montreal might have a chance. I think their big mistake was not making a move on trade deadline. We should have got a little bit stronger to compete against Washington. But you look at history, right? And in history, Montreal, when they made the playoffs last time, they finished in that 10th weird play-in wild card spot, took down the Maple Leafs, and made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. So anything's possible. I don't think the team's quite as good as last time that happened because they don't have Carey Price and Shea Weber, unfortunately. Utah's got Shea Weber, I believe. But either way, I think I could definitely see Montreal taking it to a game 6 for sure. I think we're going to want the extra game on home ice, and I think we're going to keep Washington on their toes. I'll put it that way.
I think we all have realistic expectations for Montreal. Even Chazzy, you saying you think they can beat the Capitals, I don't think you're completely out to lunch.
No.
I don't think they're. Do I agree with you? No. Do I think you're crazy? No. But you are going to go crazy if I don't let you go get some milk. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the OHL with Bry Pup coming back and giving his thoughts on what
champ
could make a deep run. We'll be right back.
Come on in. Oh, there's an opportunity knocking right there. All right, Streakers Nation.
for your money.
Big news.
Yeah.
We have more for your money joining the Streakers Nation and the team. It takes a village to do something that we want to pull off. We're so excited. So download the latest Streakers app. Watch for the updates. Watch for more happenings. Coming for more for your money. Let's go streaking.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Streakers Island podcast. And I thought Chazzy was going to go get himself a glass of milk. He's like, hey, I'll be right back. So shuts off his computer because he said his fan is just so loud. You think it's me trying to sleep. So I have 2 fans on even all winter when I'm sleeping. And he comes back with an ice cream stick. And I said to him, like, Chazzy, that's still milk.
Look who got off his lawn chair. More
And
for
Dan's
woke up
sitting up
when he saw that.
I think Dan took I don't know, he took a shot of something because he looks ready to go. But we need to hear from our good friend, the Bry Pup himself. He is a OHL specialist, and he's going to talk about 2 teams that he thinks are going a deep run for the OHL playoffs.
Bry Pup here with my contenders for the upcoming OHL playoffs, which start on March 27th. My pick for the Western Conference is the OHL leading London Knights, and my pick for the Eastern Conference isn't 71 goal scorer Nick Lardis and the Brantford Bulldogs, but it's the second place Barrie Colts. Back to the boys at the Streakers Island podcast.
I got to say, I was a little surprised of his pick from Barrie.
I was actually too surprised.
Okay, I used to help produce the Barrie Colts game when I was at games when I was a teenager. I loved the Barrie Colts, right?
I had the big camera.
Dan always had the big camera with the big lens because he used to just like to zoom in on the numbers, go in, do.
And the pretty ladies.
But I mean, you know what? It's hard to disagree with his pick on the Barrie Colts. Finished the year 42-22, 2-2. Very strong season, won their division. Almost won the whole conference, just falling short to Brantford. Brantford's got something to prove with new ownership.
I was going to say that. That's the only thing that's hurting Barrie.
And you know what? It's hard not to go. It's not hard not to go with London, as much as I hate saying that. I am not a London Knights fan. I'm just going to be very blunt there. But Chazzy, I want to throw this to you here. What team are you watching out for going into the OHL playoffs?
I'm going to stick with the team I said at the trade deadline there, the Ottawa Generals, when they made those couple picks. What was it? Andrew Gibson and Ethan Martin. And I think since Gibson's he's what plus 15 or 16 and 17 points, and I think Ethan Martin has got 9 goals since coming over to the club. So it'll be interesting to see how that club gels, especially they got Colby there into the playoffs here. So
Colby, ooh.
Yeah, I can't. It's hard to disagree with you there. I loved that Gibson trade. I mean, I watched him when he was in this part of the Sioux Greyhounds. He was a big part of that team having a lot of success, right? He's a very strong defensive defense, and he's the type of guy you need in the playoffs. And Oshawa is doing a lot of things right to close out the year, right? They're playing hockey the right way. But Dan, what's a team that you're watching out for coming in here for the playoffs?
I love my Barrie Courts. We've gone to many Barrie Courts games in the past. Great group of guys from came out Barrie into the NHL, but I think Brantford has a hot hand. Brantford's got all the attention, new ownership, especially a VIP owner in Zach Hyman, and possibly taking a new arena and all of that. Is we really regenerizing not just Brantford, but the whole Hamilton area too. I think they got a lot of support behind them, a lot of money behind them. And I think Brantford's going to get it done. And you know what? Everyone is tired of the London Knights. I get it, but history repeats itself, right? The London Knights have probably one of the most legendary coaches of OHL history, besides rest in peace Halichuk. He was a great guy. But when it comes to winning and stuff, Hunter is probably the most legendary coach and possibly over the CHL besides of the I forget the guy's name in Ottawa 67, but he's a legend too. But they got legendary coaching in London, and they got a great system that pounds out tons of great NHL players like Max Domi and Mitch Marner and Wick Nass and Sanahan, and the list goes on and on and on. But Barrie got Mike Seifley and Brian Little and a bunch of good guys too. So we'll see what happens.
So I'm going to go a little off the board here.
Woo.
With my pick. Now, you guys, no offense, you guys both took some more obvious picks with Oshawa and Brantford. I'm not saying these are bad picks.
Okay, Captain Obvious.
Right. So, but I will say Oshawa's only 5-4-1 in their last 10. They're limping a little bit. Brantford, they are 8-2 in their last 10. They are not limping a bit. But I want to take a team that's hot coming into the playoffs, and that's the Brampton Steelheads. So you guys might think I'm absolutely crazy. Okay. Closed out the year winning straight. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They have some studs on this team in Carson Raycroft and Luke Misa. This Misa kid should have made the World Junior team. 85 points in 67 games as a 16-year-old.
16.
You got Raycroft. You got Porter Martin, another great player. You got 3 guys over a point per game. So when I'm looking at this team here, right, I truly feel they have a chance of doing some damage. I think they're a better team than they're giving credit. And Ivan Govich as well, who I watched when he was with the Sioux Greyhounds, being their starting goalie. He's a good goaltender, right? So if they can get good goaltending and they can continue to roll hot, I'm not saying they might not win the whole thing, but I think they could do some damage. I think this is a team that could really push strong. Another team I'd watch, though, is obviously as a more obvious pick, I'm going to say the Windsor Spitfires. This team is, I know they've been limping a little bit, 5-4, 0-1 to close out the year, which isn't great, but they are a very strong team, and they're a team that has something to prove. They're a team that really wants to get over that hump of London, and I wouldn't count out the Sioux Greyhounds either, although they are under 500. This is a team that likes to score.
Well, I almost said the Sioux Greyhounds, but I wasn't too sure with them trading all their top guys at the deadline. But that's just another team that's got winning culture in them.
Now, mind you, they're going to have a tough series facing the Spitfires first round. The reason why I'm saying Brampton too is they're taking Oshawa first round, and I think that's a decent matchup for them, right? Yeah. You look at and I get what you're saying, Chazzy. Oshawa made some big moves at the deadline. But you compare your power play and your penalty kill percentages, they're very close. Oshawa up the slight edge at 23% on the power play to Brampton's 21.1. And Oshawa up a slight advantage of penalty kill, 79.6 to 76.6. But you're looking pretty close. Brampton scores a bit more. Oshawa defends a bit better. So I think that's a series that could end up being close. As much as Oshawa stacked at the deadline, I could see Brampton surprising some people and taking that round.
Imagine if that happens. So was Oshawa traded 30 draft picks to build their team? They literally traded their whole future, right? So I'm taking Chazzy on this one. I'm sorry, Jacob. I think you deserve the circus book for that claim.
And don't get me wrong, though. Like, when we talk Oshawa, like, this is another team that is just absolutely stacked, right? Like, but it's interesting enough. They don't have as many stat guys when it comes to points. You got Beckett, who's your best player, of 86 points. Then you have Luca Marcel with 74. Then Colm Ritchie, another guy from Team Canada, with 70. Right,
but
so they're more of a balanced lineup versus Brampton's got a little more of a powerhouse lineup. I think that's you know what? Let's be honest. Usually 5 versus 4 is one of the best series in a proper playoff format. The OHL is still doing it the right way. So thank you very much for that, Ontario Hockey League. Still using a 2-point system, so that's wrong, but you're getting close. Almost there. But I don't think Bry Pup's out to lunch with either of his picks. London's an obvious but a great pick. I mean, Easton Cowan, whether you like the guy or hate him, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the Barrie Colts have really surprised people this season. They have the best penalty kill in the Eastern Conference, which is going to serve them very well in the playoffs. Only 6-4 in their last 10 to close out the year. But at the same time, Barrie kind of knew where they were going to be, right? They knew they weren't really going to catch Brantford, and Kingston was right on their tail. I'm surprised none of us picked Kingston. So what?
Yeah,
Kingston's a good team.
Kingston's got a big ownership group too, with Dougie Gurmo a part of it and Cujo a part of it. They got a really good support as well out there.
And again, they got some strong players, 3 guys of over a point per game, right? So,
and that's what I was going to say too. People might hear 70, 60 points. They're like, well, what's that? Well, in the OHL, they only play about 62 games in the season. So 68. When you get someone playing 60 points, they're a pretty good player, especially in such a competitive league as the OHL, probably the most competitive league in the CHL.
And only going to get more competitive next year.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? We're seeing more and more expansion coming in the CHL. Western Hockey League just announced new expansion teams.
Open borders.
Yep.
I think the only thing that's maybe holding us all off towards Kingston, their penalty kills only at 77.7%, which is the second lowest out of all the playoff teams in the Eastern Conference.
Oh, wow.
Now, they don't take a lot of penalties, but if they get into some penalty trouble when they've lost their last 2 games, 5-5 going down the stretch, which is making it where they have to play Sudbury in the first round instead of Niagara, right?
Sudbury is a good team too.
Niagara, but Sudbury is a better team and is a much harder road team because you're traveling so much farther. Like, for
Kingston, surprised none of us picked Sudbury.
Sudbury's one of those teams. They've lost their last 4 to close out the year. So I think that's kind of where a lot of us were leaning out on them. But again, Sudbury, I don't know if you guys have been to a game in Sudbury, but I have, and that barn is rocking. Same with Sault Ste. Marie. It's kind of funny the Wolves and the Greyhounds are in different conferences when they're both and they're Northern Ontario. That is a little strange when you think about it.
Yeah.
But I think the OHL playoffs are going to be very exciting, and Bry Pup's going to come back to us on Thursday as well to talk about some players that we should be watching out for.
Well, maybe you should tell him that.
I did.
Oh,
it's in our group chat, Mr. Kachuk. But I want to move off the OHL a little bit and move to the Western Hockey League and talk about Gavin McKenna. So, Gavin McKenna, who plays for the Minnesota Hat Tigers, in 56 games, finished with 41 goals, 88 assists, 129 points, and a +60. He's not even draft eligible yet.
Very cute.
Okay.
How old is he?
17.
Oh, 17. Okay.
He was born in 2007.
Holy cow, I feel old.
And is this was his first breakout year?
That is a good question.
I think he's a great.
So the year prior, This is just breaking it down game by game. But no, this is kind of his first, like, he's been good, but this year he was just outstanding. So here we go. Last year he had
It's taking so long to find the stats and getting bored.
Last year he had 97 points in 61 games.
Still pretty
Same team?
Same team, but he was a -4.
Mm.
This year, 129 points in 56 games. So less games, more goals, more assists, and a better plus-minus.
That's impressive.
Averaging just over 2.3 points per game. Now, I also want to bring this up too. In his last 6 games, he's got 26 points in his last 6 games.
That's crazy.
He's averaging 4.5 points per game right now and over his last 6.
Yeah.
Now, what's going to be tough for him is people are already comparing him to Sidney Crosby.
That's why I said it was cute, right? I still don't think he compares to Crosby.
Well, and you know what? I think you're just setting the kid up for failure. Because
100%.
Sidney Crosby was just more than a goal scorer. Don't get me wrong. I've watched some highlights of this McKinnon.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like the next McDavid when I watch him play. Like, that's more the way he plays. So much speed, amazing hands. The guy can no-look pass tape to tape with his eyes closed. He's an incredible player. However, making those comparisons before he's played 1 second of NHL hockey is tough.
Yeah, 100%.
Very, very tough. However, this kid's definitely going to be a first overall pick when he's draft eligible next year. Not this year, but next year. So he's still got another year in the CHL to just get that much better. Or
hopefully
now if he wants
in Carter.
to play Division I NCAA hockey if he wants to do that, right? He's got a lot more options now than he would have before.
Right.
I would assume he'd stay in the CHL. I think you're going to see him play for Team Canada again and take a much bigger role. He's just going to continue to develop and get better. But this is a kid that I'm excited to watch.
Do you think that's an interesting point for the Canadian kids, especially in hockey, and nil deals down south to bring them down for their college year? Knowing that the path to the NHL can take multiple ways now after it kicks in next year. Like with the open.
Well, and that's the thing, right? There are now more ways to. You might see it where a player might get drafted in the 4th or 5th round. I don't think these superstars, but for some of these kids going in the maybe anywhere from 3rd to 6th round, they might get drafted and then go to the NCAA for 3-4 years. Just keep developing. Right?
Look at Bobby McMahon.
Yeah, Bobby McMahon came from the Eastern Hockey League, which is crazy enough, the ECHL. But look at a guy like Tyler Bolzak. I think you're going to see more guys like Bolzak and Nyes and these type of guys coming in from NCAA hockey. And that's where this program of opening the door, as much as it could hurt some of these other junior leagues like the OJHL, the NOJHL, and those type of leagues, because before players were using those leagues to try to get into Division I or Division III hockey. No, I still think they will, because I look at it, if you're a player that's going to get 4th line minutes in the OHL or top line minutes in the OJHL, you're better going to the OJHL, because I'm telling you right now, the hockey's comparable.
Oh yeah,
I was just at the Milton Menace playoff game versus the Collingwood Blues where they won 4-0. Big surprise, Collingwood hasn't even scored a goal in that series yet. Yeah. And there was over 1,000 fans in that rink, and I swear that was one of the loudest barns I've been in my entire life, because it's a small arena and it is loud. Like they had to close off the front door because they couldn't fit any more people in because of the fire code. That's how crazy that barn was getting.
And that's in Milton.
In Milton, Ontario.
Wow.
So what I'm getting at is when people say it's going to hurt these leagues, I don't think it necessarily will, because there are teams that are getting a lot of exposure, especially to the OJHL is still getting coverage between Flow Hockey and community TV channels. So it's not like they're not getting any coverage. They are getting as much coverage as Dan's about to eat his name key because he's hungry. We're not
Pac-Man
used to the name
style.
keys yet, but he likes to do Pac-Man with the name keys and the ticker.
But Chazzy got his ice cream, so I used to get stuffing too, right?
I want to move on to the Toronto Blue Jays, who would like to have their cake and eat it too, because they want to try to ignore the Vladdy Guerrero Jr. drama and still be competitive.
Good luck.
So they did go 18-10 in spring training. If that was the regular season, they'd be on pace for 104 wins. I don't think that's realistic. But, Chazzy, how are you feeling as a Jays fan? Like, do
I'll
you
let you
feel
know after this. I'll let you know after this first series against Baltimore.
no? But before the series, you talked.
Nice
off
try,
camera.
I'm always
Chazzy.
optimistic. I'm a baseball fan, and I'm always optimistic that the Jays are going to do it this year. And that's the problem with baseball, I guess, with the wild card and everything. But hopefully, we're competitive enough in the division, which I hold my breath. But if we can be competitive here, then it'd be great. But optimistic as anything going into the home opener.
Now, I'm going to say one area I'm more confident this year than other years prior. I think this team's going to score more.
Yeah.
I really do feel towards the end of the year, I felt the hitting was improving last season.
Yeah.
And they were more focused about getting guys on base and not just hitting dingers all night or all
Right.
afternoon, whatever time of day they were playing.
Well, they love that
So-
jacket they get when they hit the home run, right?
I think the culture has changed there a little bit where they don't care about that as much.
Yeah.
So I do think the offense is going to be better. Starting pitching, I think, looks decent.
As
Barreros-
long as we're healthy on the starting pitching, yes, I agree. We look pretty good.
Chazzy, who's starting the home opener?
And as of right now, Jose Barros.
And what are your thoughts on Barros? Are you confident with him as kind of your ace? Because you're probably putting your best foot forward.
Well, when we had him when we got him a couple of years ago, he was that ace, and then a couple injuries, and optimistic that he's going to have another solid year this year and put up some numbers. Like, he's a fastball pitcher, right? So gets strikeouts. So hopefully he can get that form and get us about 8 to 10 strikeouts.
Because if he can get like that, and then your bullpen isn't coming in so early, because that was an issue for the team last year. I felt the bullpen was coming in too early too often. No, but not even just the bullpen. It's tough when your starter's coming out in the 4th and the 5th inning, right? I think they got to go 7 innings. I think for this team to have success, the starters have got to go 7 innings, at least 6.5.
I would say at least 6, yeah.
And I'm not even saying I think they got to start the 6th inning. And if they're pulled out halfway.
That's the way the game has changed, though. With the starting pitchers, they're not going as deep as they used to. We used to get a lot of complete games or 7, 8 innings.
Boy, how are they back in the day?
These guys are not going maybe 5, 6, maybe.
But I think
and
for the
Jays,
really
throwing heat, they're getting 7. But again, they're all on pitch counts.
Yeah.
But I feel for the Jays with the bullpen, let's be honest, the bullpen's weak. I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I'm being realistic. The bullpen's weak. I think the starters got to go 6.5 to 7 innings. I think that's the key to success. So you're not relying on 5 or 6 relief pitchers to get you through every game.
And this is where we come back to, as long as the starters stay healthy. So we'll see.
But I'm also saying, too, maybe the offense has got to find ways to get runs in early, too, right? If they can build a lead where maybe you're a little more comfortable some games pulling your starter out early to give him a bit more of a break so he can get the arm maintenance that he needs. It'll be interesting to see for the Jays. I'm interested to see, too, if we do see a guy like Alek Manoah getting back into the mix again. I know we really struggled with the pitch count, but prior pitch count, he was an excellent pitcher. I'd still like to see Toronto try to develop this guy and get him back in there. I know they just did re-sign Kirk, which I like that move. He's a fan favorite. He's a good catcher, decent hitter, makes good contact. And I think that's the thing. We need to do contact hitting. I think the Jays got to make sure the ball's always in play, right? If you're getting struck out a lot, the offense is struggling. Say that again, Dan?
He's a good team player, too. Good character guy, which is important.
He is. So, like I said, I'm still putting the Jays wins. Like I said, I think it's going to be around the low 80s. I don't think they're going to hit this 104 like they were on pace in spring training. I don't think that's realistic.
Over 500?
I think they'll be over 500, yes. I don't, unless they suck for the first 30 games and then they blow up because they're not going to re-sign Guerrero or Bichette and they move them both. Then this year will be a disaster. But we don't know
so
yet.
You're paying attention to this first month. You're paying attention to April.
Yes. Right now, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Just like the fans in Ottawa with the Ottawa Senators. I would love to see Ottawa get a baseball team, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. Get a baseball diamond right by the Rideau Canal. Think about those drone shots coming in for broadcast. That would just be mwah.
Well, they got a good minor league team in the Lynx.
Ottawa, no? Is Ottawa
Say that again, Chazzy?
Ottawa Lynx? Is that their
I was going to say Ottawa Lynx.
But they're not the home team, the Barrie Baycats, who are going to win the game. But The Ottawa Senators look like they're going to make the playoffs. I mean,
Playoffs?
Truthfully, they've actually set themselves back a little bit further of late. But I do think they're going to make the playoffs. I would be really surprised if they didn't. So, Mike, I'm going to throw, and I want to start with Dan this time. I want to throw Dan the same question I threw Chazzy about Montreal. Is this a team that could actually win a round? Or do you think they're going to get blown out of the water? They'd be right as of right now, they'd be facing the Florida Panthers.
Oh, that's going to be a series. Oh,
Florida all comes down to injuries, right? But if Florida has a full healthy lineup, I don't see this series. I would actually say Montreal will be more competitive against Washington than Ottawa against Florida.
Oh, really? Even with the goaltending?
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't know. I guess this Ottawa team, I feel kind of like the Vancouver team a little bit. They just don't quite do it for me. I mean, I hope I'm wrong because I do like, but I don't know. I'm not digging it. That Florida is a very strong team. Aaron Ekblad's going to be back in. He's very underrated. Bobrovsky's Bobrovsky. You have your third line of Massant better than Tkachuk. Like, that's probably the best third line in NHL history. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I could see Ottawa winning 5 or 6, but
see, you guys will laugh at me. I could see Ottawa beating Florida. I think they're built very similar, and Ottawa's a bit faster. And if Allmark gets hot, they have a shot. And that's where I give Ottawa, and sorry, Chazzy, but this is where I give Ottawa a bit of an edge over Montreal. There's nothing against Montembeault, but he's never played a playoff game in his life.
True.
Allmark has, and he's won some playoff games.
Oh, we've seen Allmark here in the last couple of weeks. The saves.
And he's been making some of the saves of the century.
See, I can't disagree with you because back in Boston, okay, Allmark always got the start of the series, and Swayman came in and saved it and took Fournette away from him.
No.
Yes.
Boston picked a goalie, but it's not like Allmark sucked.
Swayman was better.
Debatably. Like, I don't even know if you can necessarily say Swayman was that much better. I'm pulling up some stats here for you. Okay, remember, Allmark won the Vezina Trophy 2 years ago, okay?
Right.
So last playoffs, Allmark for Boston. Okay, he started one game and he lost, but his stats were good.
Yeah.
And he played well, right?
One
and you
game.
look at Allmark in the year prior for Boston, he went 3-3. Again, his numbers were decent. I don't think they weren't phenomenal with an 8.96 save percentage, but he's winning games.
Oh my gosh.
You can go, oh my gosh, no, you what? I'm not worried about save percentage.
9,900, bro.
But the way he's been playing in Ottawa this year, yeah, you can't tell me Ottawa doesn't have an advantage over Montreal in goaltending when it comes to teams in the wild card right now.
Do you think Oma is going to be better in the playoffs behind a weaker team than Boston?
Yes, I do actually, because there's confidence. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Okay, remember, I was a goaltender.
Right.
And as a goaltender, you need the confidence that your team trusts you. Right. He always knew in Boston, if he lets in one iffy goal, he's getting pulled.
Yeah, true.
Where in Ottawa, and Forsberg's had a good year this year as well.
Yeah.
But he knows he's the guy. And I think that's going to be a big difference for him. And I would argue in some ways, Ottawa's going to play a bit more defensively than Boston did.
Ooh.
So, because that Boston-Toronto series, some of the chances they gave up were just crazy.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to say, do I think Ottawa will definitely beat Florida? No, but I'm going to give it a similar weight I feel about Montreal. I think they can push them to 6, maybe 7, and I think they have a fighting chance if they can get some hot goaltending. And I think for Ottawa, the chippier the better, because I think they can go tit for tat with Florida with being annoying.
Yeah,
and that's why they brought in a guy like Dylan Cousins as well. Which Dan, I should have saved the clip when you went on that it was a terrible trade. Well, Dylan Cousins has been the missing piece in Ottawa.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens in playoff time.
But we need to go to a quick break so Dan can learn how to not eat his name key. When we come back, we are going to talk about.
He told me I was standing too far back. Now he's saying he's standing too far up.
But when we come back, we're going to talk about the big controversy in the Canadian Football League involving the Edmonton Elks general manager. Plus, we're going to talk about my least favorite player in sports, Aaron Rodgers. We'll be right back. The Streakers Island podcast is here, baby. We're talking NHL, CFL, NFL, and of course, those grassroots sports and so much more. Make sure you tune in every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Welcome to the island. Welcome back, everybody, to the Streakers Island podcast. And during the break, Dan went down to the kitchen, got some Ritz crackers, so he will no longer be eating his name key. So he had a snack.
I wish. That's a lie.
He had
you lie to the viewers.
I did not lie to the viewers. I'm just painting a picture. Call me Bob Ross. Or how about Bob Ross holding hands with Rick Ross, painting a picture of Ross from Friends. That's a lot of Ross. But you know who's getting roasted a lot is the Edmonton Elks GM. So the Edmonton Elks GM, which I'd like to say is his first year being the GM of the Edmonton Elks of the Canadian Football League.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
So he bluntly went to social media saying the Canadian Football League has no superstar talent. That's why he will not pay anyone in the Canadian Football League superstar money.
What?
Picture that is like Brad Treliving saying that to the Leafs, we don't have any good players, so none of you are getting paid. So obviously the fans and players reacted. And these players, they understand they're not the same as some of these NFL guys. But I believe the one he was targeting with this was Eugene Lewis. Because Eugene Lewis was the highest paid receiver going into free agency. And here's his tweet. So I'm going to read this off my cellular device here, okay? So sounds like he's mad because he lied and asked the media, and the media asked him about me. Now to save himself, there's no superstars in the CFL. Now you're being disrespectful to the league and your own players. Last I checked, the fans, stats, contract, and consistency determine a superstar. Very interesting quote. Now we have Tim White over from the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I guarantee you there's superstar talent in the CFL. Not much different than NFL talent. I've been on both rosters. ... We have had Chad Ochocinco say this on multiple different shows and podcasts. The CFL to the NFL talent is very comparable. There is just only so many jobs.
Same with Ricky Williams.
Look at Ricky Williams. Look at a quarterback like Damon Allen back in the day, who's second all-time for CFL in passing yards and third all-time for rushing yards as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, never mind, everyone goes on about what Patrick Mahomes can do. Damon Allen was literally a running back who could throw an 80-yard touchdown pass. Never mind Aaron Rodgers being able to throw a 50-yard pass like you two like to go on and on about. We'll get Aaron Rodgers in a bit. But then there's Lenzo Malding, who tweeted, and I quote, "This is my last on this, got more important stuff to do." And I thought this one was one of the best quotes on this. We understand that the CFL is not the NFL, but the players in this league are just as capable and work hard every day at their craft, just as the ones in the NFL. The CFL is Canada's NFL, and there's pride in the teams that the players take. I thought that was one of the best takes on this. These guys aren't saying they're NFL players, because they're not. We are well aware that there is not in this league right now, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes would be the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, we understand that. But we also feel like, hey, a lot of these players in the CFL, if the cards flipped a different way, could have been in the NFL.
Yep.
If the NFL quarterback system became more mobile sooner, a guy like Vernon Adams Jr. would be in the NFL. If Chad Kelly didn't make so many mistakes in his younger portion of his career, he would be in the NFL. Bo Levi Mitchell chose to be a starter in the CFL than a backup to Ryan Fitzpatrick in the NFL. You have guys like Wynton McManus in the Toronto Argos, who has played in the NFL as a rotation guy, decided he wanted to come to the CFL to become a superstar. The talent's there. And for anyone who says that isn't there has not watched a game, or they're just ignorant. And I'm just going to say that they're ignorant.
Yeah.
Because the talent is there. It's a different league. So myself as a huge CFL fan, I was completely appalled by what the Elks general manager Ed Harvey had to say. And what I also found interesting, I'm sorry, boys, I know I'm just going on a rant here, but I was really angry about this. And so was the CFL Players Association. And I quote, "We are deeply disturbed by the public comments of the Edmonton Elks general manager Ed Harvey. As reported by Third Down Nation, Mr. Harvey's comments were insulting and ignorant. He is disgraded every single one of our members and our entire league when he stated that the CFL has no superstar players. We call on Mr. Harvey to retract his statement and acknowledge the immense value, the skill that the CFL players bring to the sport. The CFL is the home of some of the most dynamic athletes in professional football, and it's time to show their respect to their contributions on and off the field." Now, one thing I'm surprised about here, and I want to, Chazzy, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, and Dan, I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. Are you guys surprised that the CFL, the league themselves, I know they don't have a commissioner, but they didn't make a statement about this? At least I can't find it. I didn't feel good about that. I think the CFL's got to defend its players here.
Yeah, someone does.
Well, as you were saying all this, that's what popped in my mind was, do they have a commissioner yet, and where are they with that, and did they make a statement? And if you're saying they didn't, someone's got to say something when one of your GMs makes an off-the-wall comment like that.
Like, that's more off the wall than Dan saying Joseph Wall should be traded for a bag of pucks. Like Dan, you've watched the CFL for a long time as well. You're older than me, so in theory, you have seen more games. Correct. I want you to think back to some of the greatest CFL players you have seen. Think about a Damon Allen or a Henry Burris, Ricky Ray, Chad Owens.
A Pinball Clemens when he's playing.
Yeah.
All these amazing guys. Guys who have actually won Super Bowls in the NFL, some of them, and have come back to the CFL. Think of Laram Olahe in Toronto.
Look at Doug Flutie.
Look at Doug Flutie and Warren Moon. Right? These are two guys that had success in both leagues. How does this comment make you feel as a long-term CFL fan?
It's sickening to my stomach, Bo. Makes me want to barf up my dinner. Like, it was that bad. Like, I mean, if I'm the Edmonton Elks, they just new ownership. If they dumped a bunch of money, I would have fired his bum already. Like, it's bad. I don't know if he just used it as a negotiating tactic, but especially this year, because a lot of the CFL players are Canadian. And we're taking so much pride in this calendar year, especially with the politics right now versus the Canada and America. And I think we're going to see more people supporting the CFL this year because it's Canada's game from Canada's owners and Canadian players. And for him to say there's no talent is so disrespectful. Yeah, maybe it's a negotiation tactic for Eugene Lewis, but Bud, you crossed the line way too much. And the other thing too is you look at guys like Damon Allen. It wasn't that long ago that the NFL would not allow a person of color to be a starting quarterback. And that was one reason why we had guys like Damon Allen in the CFL. I'm sure if that wasn't the rule back then, Damon Allen would be a Hall of Famer NFL quarterback. So for them to come out and say there's no talent, I mean, is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Dan, there 100%. It's like you look at a guy like Damon Allen, and he was one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the best players to ever do it in the sport. So he's thrown for 72,381 passing yards, which is crazy, right? But on top of that, he also threw for 394 touchdowns. He won multiple Grey Cups, multiple MVP awards, but he was also in the top 3 in rushing yards in his career.
Crazy quarterback.
So, as a quarterback, Damon Allen finished with 11,920 yards rushing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, seriously, think about that. I want you to seriously think how good that is, right? Like, when you compare that to CFL most rushing yards,
Super nice guy, too, Damon Allen.
he is, right? And, like, you look at that, and you take a guy like George Reed, who was known as a complete superstar in the CFL. He rushed for 10,532 yards. So Damon Allen's a quarterback, ran for more yards than him. You look at Mike Pringle, 9,809 yards.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Damon Allen ran for more Pinball Clemens.
So Mike Pringle finished his CFL career of 16,425. Then George Reed is 16,116. Then Damon Allen third most rushing yards in CFL history.
Wow.
With 11,920.
What's pinball have?
Pinball was more of a kick returner.
Right.
But like, to put it into perspective, right? We're looking into NFL top all-time rushers. And we got Emmitt Smith with 18,000. Then Walter Payton around 16. Then Barry Sanders with 15. Curtis Martin with 14. Tomlinson, 13,000. But like, we're looking at this, Damon Allen is not that far off as a quarterback to catching some of the top all-time rushers in NFL history. He would be sitting 11th in NFL history for all-time rushing.
And he would be the highest quarterback. He would be the highest quarterback, right?
Can you imagine, and think about the way the NFL game has evolved, right? So we're seeing quarterbacks need to be more and more mobile. Can you imagine the new NFL game with a guy like Damon Allen that can run over the place but could also throw an 80-yard pass perfectly?
Yeah.
That's why when people say the skill level is not there, I disagree with you wholeheartedly.
The thing with Damon Allen, too, it wasn't just the power, it was the accuracy. And he could bomb a ball 80 yards, but then when a receiver catches it, just landed it so perfect in their hands like a feather. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know how he does it.
So that's just why, for me personally, I was really angry. And the CFL needs to do something about it. Like they've been trying so hard to showcase the talent more in this league. And I can even think of current players. Like, when I think of a guy like Zach Collaros, he easily could have been an NFL quarterback. I think Vernon Adams Jr. could have been. Bo Levi Mitchell could have been. Chad Kelly. Like, even I look at a guy like Drew Brown as a young up-and-comer. Like, you can't tell me that these guys who are tearing up in the league aren't any worse than Danny Dimes. Who just throw, like, and that's what I don't understand either. I'll watch the NFL, and how many NFL games do we watch? We're like, good Lord, these quarterbacks are terrible.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
And not
like,
just the quarterback.
Justin Fields being a top free agent in the quarterback pool, where I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the CFL for half of these teams. So, and I'm just being blunt on that. And if anything, in some ways, it's hard. Look at a guy like Nathan Rourke. When he came back to the CFL, he was terrible.
And it's not just the quarterback.
Seems to think that the game is easier. It is different. It is no easier nor harder. It is different.
Not just the quarterback position. There's a lot of great players in multiple positions. You look at a lot of the kickers, punters, and all of them. They're from Australia and different parts of the world, right? So maybe if they were in America, they would have been in the NFL too, you know?
And interesting enough, the CFL is a much higher kicking percentage accuracy than the NFL. The NFL kicks a little deeper, but the ball's lighter. That's the other argument you can make for the kicking standpoint. CFL football is about 2.5 pounds heavier. That makes a difference when you're trying to kick between 55 to 60 yards, right? So I don't think the talent pool is as far off as someone like Ed Harvey is saying. And personally, I don't know why the Elks just didn't fire him right then and there.
I would have.
I would be like, okay, you're gone. You deserve the clown book. Almost didn't pull it out for this episode, but Ed Harvey deserves the clown book, because to go on like that in a league that you've been a part of for years, and you have guys in this league who have played in the NFL, you have NFL players who have played in the CFL and vice versa, who have had success in both leagues, it's just appalling.
Yeah.
But I want to move on to a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, as much as I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan, he has admitted that he loves the CFL game.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Terrible. That's another guy. He is, as a lot of people feel, he is one of the greatest quarterbacks of his generation. I'm not one of those people, but there are people who say that. But it looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh. He spent a lot of time with the training facilities there. He spent 6 hours one day, last Tuesday. So it looks like they're very close to getting a deal done. So if that happens, then I think they're letting Russell Wilson walk, and they might keep Justin Fields. I don't see the point of having Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson.
Right.
Chazzy, you look confused.
But didn't Fields sign with the Jets?
Maybe he did. And maybe I just don't know. I'm a self-proclaimed sports analyst.
Yeah, no, they let him walk. So you're thinking they're going to let Russ walk?
Well, I don't understand. I think Russ and Rodgers are kind of comparable at this stage of their career. I don't really see the point in having both of them. And then I think the Giants will go for Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
That he can go, New York Giants, let's ride.
Well,
because he put up some good numbers in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
and I will say, I think Pittsburgh is a place where Aaron Rodgers can have some success because they're so good defensively as well. He's not going to have to carry the team on his back. He's just going to have to not lose the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that was a big problem. I think that was a big problem with Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. I think he had to win games for them, and I just don't think he's that guy anymore. But I think he can be a quarterback that keeps you in games with a strong defense, and they can continue to be a 500 club.
I think Pittsburgh would be better than 500 of Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I mean, what I mean is they've been over at 500 and made the playoffs.
Okay, yeah. I think better than 500. Talking about Bo.
I don't think they're any better with Aaron Rodgers over Russell Wilson, but I don't think they're any worse.
They'll make
a little bit better.
They'll make them. So Dan, you actually think why do you think they're better? Russell Wilson had a better season than Aaron Rodgers.
I get that, but Aaron Rodgers had a horrible team. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer franchise quarterback. You don't get that every day. Even if you get a franchise quarterback towards the end of the career, in my opinion, you want a franchise quarterback at the end versus a mediocre in mid-form. Right? Won't we all agree with that?
No. Because you're looking at longevity and health, and I don't know if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy for an 18, 19-game season.
Well, that's why you have a good backup too, right? Maybe you just play Aaron Rodgers a really good 12 games.
Depends how much you're paying Aaron Rodgers.
Whatever, I got money for all around.
I know they should go get Zach Wilson, then those two can be reunited again. And hit on each other's mothers.
But isn't Russell making like 40? They can't be paying Rodgers his 50.
So what do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to make? I think he's on like a 25 mil contract.
Yeah, he's probably going to get something nice.
Something nice, but he's certainly. I'm not paying him 50.
No.
Then that GM would deserve this book, along with Ed Harvey, of course. Because Ed Harvey, I'm going to mail him this book, maybe. Find his address.
Well, they got real grass at Heinz Field, don't they? Or is it still Heinz Field in Pittsburgh?
Just mail it to the arena.
But you do have to wonder with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, do you have a decent backup for an insurance policy? I don't really know who's available in that backup role, but I just don't know if Rodgers is a big improvement, but I don't think you're getting any worse. I think you're still a playoff team, and maybe you're hoping Aaron Rodgers can win a playoff game where Russell Wilson couldn't get the job done. But another crazy thing I want to talk to you guys about was Caleb Williams' manager believes Caleb Williams could eventually become the first $1 billion paid player.
What? This guy hasn't learned anything about life.
If I'm going to say right now, if there's going to be one of those young studs getting that, it's Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Like $1 billion from the club. That's his contract.
Yeah.
So like $1 billion over 15 years.
Over 15, 16 years is what he's saying.
I disagree, and I'll tell you why. The first $1 billion contract will not be in the NFL. It will be in the MLB. It's going to be a baseball player because there's no salary cap in baseball. And you look at a team like the New York Yankees, the one of the richest, not just sports team in America, one of the richest sports franchise in the world, they would easily pay $1 billion at this point to win a World Series.
Yeah.
So I think the first $1 billion athlete will be a baseball player and not
I could
football.
easily see that. I think baseball, but I do think NFL has a chance because NFL salaries are getting close.
Right.
They're getting comparable. But yeah, I think baseball will do it before the NFL. But Caleb Williams,
it's either going to be baseball or basketball. Might be another
Baseball.
close one.
Well, the other
baseball.
thing we're saying too is soccer. I've seen a lot of crazy soccer contracts in Europe,
Yeah.
so I could easily see a soccer player maybe getting $1 billion US because that's less than like euros and pounds, right? So I could easily see that. Yeah. Euro!
But their contracts are different, are they not? Like you buy the player, do you not, or something like that?
Yeah, their contracts are weird, but we could see $1 billion, whatever they call those things. But I do think the first one will be baseball for North American sports, then football, maybe football or basketball for number 2. Because the thing is, for basketball, I don't really see these young up and comers, anyone being the next LeBron James. I haven't seen a guy that I think is going to be that impact yet.
Definitely not his son.
Hey, say what you want about Bronny James. Funny enough, we were talking about him last week. He had a great game last week, putting up 17 points. Actually tied Kobe Bryant's record for most assists by a rookie with 5 in a game.
Wow.
So give him credit for that. I think Bronny James is starting to find his way. I still think he should play a year in the G League and just go to all the G League games. But I want to talk to you guys now about the NBA standings. And I want to focus on, obviously, we have our top teams in the East at the Cavaliers, Celtics, and Knicks. But I want to go between the Pacers, Bucks, Pistons, Hawks, or Magic. Out of those teams, who could you see maybe going on a bit of a run? Chazzy, I'm going to start with you.
I haven't paid attention too close to the Pistons lately, but I know that they were on a run. They're one of those teams where you're hoping that they're going to turn the corner because they've had so many great draft picks that I think it could be the year for them. They're playing well.
You know what? Yeah, the Pistons are a young team, but it seems like it's starting to come together, and I could definitely see them winning a round or two. Right now, the Pistons would play the Knicks, which that's a doable series for them. You look at those records, they're relatively close. Knicks with a 44-26 record, Pistons with a 40-32. That's very doable between those two teams.
It's close from 3rd to 8th.
Pardon, sorry?
I said this like it's close from 3rd to 8th. It's not that far off.
It's really not. And Dan, I know you're not a huge basketball fan, but I'm assuming you've heard of Jonas Antetokounmpo.
Yep.
He is on the Bucks.
Yep.
That is why I think you and I are both thinking the same team in the Bucks out of those teams. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to talk about my Bucks anyways then. I think the Bucks are a team. They'd be facing the Pacers the first round. Very doable series. Only two game difference between those two teams, which for non-basketball fans, that would be like 4 points. Their system's a little weird. But I could see the Bucks surprising some people and going on a run. I don't think you can assume Jonas Antetokounmpo will not put a team on his back and do something. But that's my pick. Dan, who's your pick then? Because I thought for sure you were going to go the Bucks.
Jacob, I'm going to say to that, what the buck? And I'm going to admit I'm not a basketball fan, for say. I'm trying to get more into it. But every time I challenge Chazzy and Jacob in the sports booth on the Streakers Streakers app, for whatever strange reason, I have no idea why, maybe because of NBA 1996 on the N64, I picked the Atlanta Hawks. And whenever I pick the Atlanta Hawks on the Streakers app, they seem to win. So I don't know anything about them, but I'm going to go with my Atlanta Hawks.
I will say the Hawks are 7-3 in their last 10 on a 3-game
Yeah, they've been good lately.
They're on the bubble.
They're a bubble team, and that's. I don't agree with you, but I don't know if you're necessarily out to lunch. My only issue with the Hawks is they'd be playing the Celtics first round.
Well, they're going to get a lot of support from their city in Atlanta because The basketball teams are only winter sports team, not having their hockey team anymore. So get a lot of fans coming out and support them versus some NBA teams are losing attendance. So I think that could help them with some playoff games having a full stadium too.
Yeah, very true. And I mean, you know what? Basketball, we don't see as many upsets, but it doesn't mean we won't see an upset. But Dan will get upset if I don't leave him enough time for his island mindset. So we'll go over the Western Conference and the NBA on the Thursday edition of the Streakers Island podcast.
Ooh.
So, Dan, before we go, look into the camera. Connect with your audience. Be one with the audience. What is your island mindset today?
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think 2025 for Canada is the year of the election. And guess what? We're having another election. We just had one in Ontario, and now we're having another one federally in the whole country of Canada. And what? Maybe people are a little frustrated. I get it, but guess what? You can't complain about the system if you don't vote for the system. So regardless if you support green, purple, blue, red, orange, or some other random color I don't know of, get out there and vote. Make your opinion heard. You have until April 28th to do your research. Watch the local debates. Go out and meet your local candidates. Get out there and volunteer. Do whatever you can do to get to know your candidates, understand what the parties are going for, and make a great decision because people died, so you had a voice. So get out there and vote, vote, vote.
Couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Moore, for your money. And I want to say something else, too, that's surprising. None of us deserve the clown book today.
Ooh.
We all made some excellent points. None of us were totally out to lunch. So congratulations, Streakers Island team. We were not insane today.
So who was? Ed from the Eagles? I mean, Upperton?
The Elks. Ed Harvey deserves the book. I will find out
Ed.
there's a way. Maybe I can just maybe I'll get his email and I'll just send him a screenshot of the cover. I don't know. But we'll see. But thank you very much for joining the Streakers Island podcast. Looking for more Streakers Island content? Make sure to follow all of us on social media. Download the Streakers app. A lot of fun. Play and earn. Always win. Never lose. But I'm Jacob Moore,
Atlanta Hawks
analyst. The guy who is turning very green is Dan Moore. More for your money.
Woo!
And Chazzy, the milk loving CEO. So until next time, we will see you back on the island on Thursday.